Am I the a-hole for leaving my niece an inheritance but not my nephew? I was diagnosed with a terminal illness a few months ago. It's not a matter of if, but when, and the best estimate is that I have in the neighborhood of 1 to 2 years. I'm dealing with it. I've had a good life and no regrets. Part of dealing with it is getting my affairs in order before I leave the stage. My sister has 2 children, 13 female and 5 male. The 13-year-old is from her previous relationship, the 5-year-old from her current husband. My niece's father skipped out on them and my sister had a rough time of it, so I helped them out early on. Her husband is well off, so they're set now. But it's become very obvious to me over the years that he wishes my niece weren't in their lives. They don't exactly neglect her, but she's left out of a lot. And it's very obvious even to our parents that my nephew is heavily favored. I've talked to my sister about it at various points, but she's in denial, and I don't think would ever have the courage to stand up to her husband. I've tried to make it up to my niece in quiet ways, but I know it still hurts and I worry about her. I made some very fortunate business moves early on and I'm now sitting on a large chunk of change in a retirement fund that I will not live to use. My sister has made no plans for my niece's college or anything else, but the girl is incredibly smart and hardworking in school, and she deserves a chance to make the most of herself. It's my intention to have everything put in trust for her after my death, managed by my executor until she's 25 so that her parents can't touch it. She can have money for school, and some time to mature before being fully in control. My nephew already has a trust fund from his father, so he doesn't need the money. Ironically, this would put her in a better financial position than the rest of the family, but I think that's just as at this point considering how much she's put up with and missed out on. I sat down with my parents and sister to lay out my plans and end-of-life wishes, and my sister is deeply offended that I'm excluding her and my nephew. She thinks I should leave the money to her to split between them or set up equal trusts for the kids. My father loathes brother-in-law and said he agrees with me not letting him or my sister near the trust, but I could leave my nephew something to save face. My mother is too distraught to have an opinion right now. Brother-in-law made a joke later about contesting the will, and my sister isn't speaking to me. I feel like I have more responsibility to look after my niece since no one else is, while her brother will be okay. I love my nephew too and don't want him to feel bad when he's older. I've planned to leave him some non-monetary items. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole, but I would see a lawyer. I've heard too many times where people mentioned leaving the other person a nominal amount of $5,000 so that they can't contest the will. Granted, my expertise is coming from Better Call Saul and a few other shows, but I'd still check. The laws governing disinheriting someone vary. It could be you have to explicitly name them and state you are disinheriting them, or you have to give a token amount to demonstrate they weren't accidentally forgotten. Same thing with introducing a do not contest clause. OP needs to check with their lawyer and be careful with a will if they want the money to go to the niece as desired. OP actually needs to check with a lawyer at 100%, but in general, disinheriting somebody means like your spouse or child. Not an a-hole at all, but agree with your father. Maybe leaving a token something so your nephew isn't left feeling the way your niece does, that you didn't value him at all. But agree that the majority is left to your niece to ensure she gets the same leg up as her nephew. And make sure that you have it locked right that there can be no contest, and they should think long and hard about it if they want any sort of relationship with her daughter. I'd also leave a letter for your nephew explaining your rationale that he can read as an adult. It's your money and you leave how you see fit. I've planned to leave him some items from my grandfather as well as some of my collections which do have value, but I think he'd enjoy having the actual items more since he always wants to see them when he comes over. I would go ahead and create your niece's trust, with you as trustee and name a successor into creating documents, while you are alive, and move most of your assets to it, and then just leave a small estate in case brother-in-law's joke is not really a joke. Talk to a lawyer to confirm and create it soundly, but that will likely help assure your wishes are followed. Brother-in-law made a joke later about contesting the will. I would flip out if anyone did that to me. It's even worse if I had an estimated 1 to 2 years left. Now for the update. First, thank you for the kind condolences. It's never an easy thing to face, but there are worse things that can happen and I've already been more fortunate than most. As everyone has suggested, I do have a good lawyer and financial planner working on this, as well as a trusted friend in estate planning who will be my executor, so that this remains as far outside of family politics as possible. I do like the idea, as someone suggested, of leaving enough for university tuition locked down for my nephew, just in case his father is being dishonest about the trust, so I will discuss that with the professionals. I'm also leaving him some items of actual value, which I suppose he could sell if he chose. That being said, he has a large family on his father's side to help him, whereas my niece has only me and my parents locally. Our other family lives abroad and would not be in a position to help. I do also like the idea of making recordings and letters for them to explain the situation. Some here were worried about brother-in-law treating my niece badly the next few years because of the trust, and that's something I've been concerned about myself. My niece would prefer to live with her grandparents, and they would be happy to have her. But my sister has been an obstacle to that because of appearances. I've compiled evidence of emotional neglect over the years, along with brother-in-law's shady behavior in general, and have discussed suing for custody with my parents in the event the situation worsens. I will work in some emergency funds for legal costs and such in the event that happens, or to allow my niece to emancipate at 16 if she chooses. That year or two gap might be difficult for her, but I think if it's clear that there are a lot of eyes on the situation and people in her corner, brother-in-law won't escalate too much, as it would draw unwanted attention to his other activities. Before I was diagnosed, I had floated the idea with my sister of paying to send her to a good boarding school, so she could get a better quality education, and maybe feel a little more comfortable away from home. That was received favorably at a time, so that may also be an option if my sister is still open to it. My parents and I do plan to sit down with my niece soon and discuss this with her. Make sure she's introduced to my executor and lawyer so she knows who she can reach out to if she needs help or advice, and prepare her for what's coming. I had planned a trip for all of us, sister and nephew included, back to my parents' home country for Lunar New Year, so I'm hoping that I'm still healthy enough by then to go, and that some of this can be worked out while my sister is away from brother-in-law's influence. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my stepdaughter her Christmas present from her grandparents if my son doesn't receive one as well? I, 31 female, have been married to Dan, 39 male, for 7 years and have Nick together, 4 male. Dan has a daughter, Mel, 11 female, whose mother passed away during childbirth. We met when Mel was 1. Mel's grandparents, Tim and Kim, maternal, used to not be a part of our lives. They never supported my relationship with Dan. They told Mel I was trying to replace her, that I didn't love her, and other comments. Dan decided to go no contact as he didn't like how they treated us in front of Mel, and how Mel began replicating that behavior. Last Christmas, we all reconciled due to world events occurring. During this time, Tim and Kim only brought presents for Mel and Dan. Me and my parents were also present, and we both bought presents for them, but it wasn't reciprocated. Nick noticed that his sister and dad got a present, but he didn't. I didn't like the behavior and knew as he got older, it'll become more apparent, and I don't want him experiencing that. Me and Dan sat down with them to explain how we felt, but they just acted surprised. I suggested we lay down boundaries at how we'd like to approach any gift-giving holidays to be better prepared in the future. We agreed that for birthdays and Christmas, we'd give gifts to everyone, and it was the thought that counted. Throughout this year, Tim and Kim only bought gifts for Dan and Mel's birthday. My birthday was in March and Nick was born in April, but we didn't receive anything, not even a card. Sent a text asking if everything was alright, but they said they were busy and wished us a happy birthday. For Kim's birthday, my parents let them stay in their second home so they could go on vacation. They took my parents up on that offer, yet when my parents' birthdays came up, they didn't receive a gift or a text. At this stage, we were all pretty frustrated, and my parents felt like they were taken advantage of, as Tim and Kim were only nice to them until after their holiday. Last week, Tim and Kim came to drop off presents for the kids, as they had been exposed and wanted presents with us in case they couldn't come over. They dropped off 2 boxes, both labeled Mel. I texted assuming that they'd accidentally written Mel's name twice, and asked which was which, but they told me both were for Mel. I asked where Nick's present was, but they said they weren't giving him one. No explanation. I was fuming, so I told Dan the situation before responding. We told them that we would not be giving Mel the presents from them unless Nick got one, as it wasn't fair, and we'd already agreed to give everyone gifts. They claimed that wasn't fair and we were showing favoritism, and how can we withhold a gift from an innocent child? And then said that I'd rewrap it and claim it was from Santa. They posted on Facebook about how I was favoring my child and punishing their grandchild for no reason, and this was met with criticism directed towards me. You're the a-hole for this instance. Nick isn't related to them at all. These are Mel's maternal grandparents. Her mother died in childbirth and you are now trying to cut her off from the rest of her mother's family because you want them to pay the toll of buying presents for you, your son, and your parents. That's unreasonable when their only family in your household is Mel. The comments about replacement / etc. were not acceptable, but you did not mention those as having continued or being the issue right now. Your issue is them not buying your entire family presents. As long as they are now cordial with you, that's really all you can ask for. It's so weird how hard you guys keep trying to force these folks to care about a kid they're not related to. Your son has grandparents and parents, and doesn't need Tim and Kim. Mel has her dad and them. I don't know what kind of mom you are and would never assume you aren't a great one to her, but at the end of the day, her dad and them are her only biological family. Why would they want to buy a kid that isn't their family presents? Let them have their thing with Mel, and if it's with Mel only and you don't like that, don't contact them more than you have to. I don't mean to be rude, and I apologize if this upsets you. Just my take. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for moving my pregnant younger sister into my house without asking my boyfriend's opinion? Info. My 29 female boyfriend, 31 male, and I have been together for 5 years, but he does not live with me full-time. We have a semi-long distance relationship. We live about 300 miles away from each other. I own my house in my town and he owns his flat in the city he primarily lives in. We each pay our own bills, but chip in for food when we are at the other's place. We try and see each other for a long weekend every second weekend, alternating whose home we go to. My younger half-sister, 18 female who I'll call Lily, recently found out she was pregnant. She told her boyfriend, and his response was to break up with her and block her on all social media and her number. I'm not sure if it was him or someone in his family that reached out to our mom and told her Lily was pregnant. Mom has a very short fuse, especially when she has been drinking. Lily turned up on my doorstep at nearly 4 a.m. in her pajamas, crying her eyes out. Mom had apparently stormed into her room when she was sleeping. Mom was yelling, screaming, and very drunk. She smashed Lily's phone and iPad. Lily managed to grab her shoes and get out of the house, walking the 4 miles to my house. I live closer than our other siblings. At the time, I sent my boyfriend a text saying, "Stuff has gone down. Lily's at mine." When he woke up, I got a response saying, "Okay, talk later." In the morning, I rang my younger brother and we both went over to Mom's house. She was unconscious, breathing I checked, on the sofa. In 2 hours, we packed Lily's stuff into our cars and took it back to mine. All the siblings, 5 of us, talked and decided that for now, Lily will stay with me. She's still in school, so can't afford to live on her own. Our younger half-brother, 21 male, who is at university, will stay with our oldest brother when he comes back for the holidays rather than Mom's. That evening, after boyfriend had finished work, we talked about the situation. He knows how volatile my mom is, but he is not happy that I didn't talk to him before deciding to let Lily move in. He's now saying that he isn't coming to mine over Christmas. He was meant to come down today and stay over Christmas and New Year. His family lives near me, so he would see his family, not just me. He has decided that he's staying with his mother as he doesn't feel welcome at mine anymore. I've had a call from his mother asking what happened, and she said I was disrespectful to my boyfriend and she expected better of me. Am I the a-hole for not talking to my boyfriend before deciding to let my pregnant younger half-sister move in with me? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You do not live together. And I would have hoped you would be compassionate enough to understand your sister needs help, and that this will likely not be a permanent situation. Visiting family but not visiting you is childish behavior. I'd take these few days to really think about how his behavior makes you feel. Good for you for taking care of your sister and removing her and her child from a potentially dangerous situation. Thank you. Not the a-hole. It's your house and you two don't even really live together. If I got a text from someone saying I expect better, I'd probably go haywire. Until she said that, I didn't think I had done anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. Time to dump him and get a better boyfriend who would be supportive of you. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for making my relative pay for his uninvited guests' dinner? I recently graduated from college, and to celebrate this accomplishment, my family and I chipped in to have a buffet for my immediate family and some extended relatives and my godmother, also a distant relative, on a very nice restaurant. It's not exactly cheap, so everything is accounted for. and we informed them that those who are invited are the only ones who can eat. On the day of the celebration, to our surprise, my godmother brought in 3 co-workers of hers. They are total strangers to me. My dad said he would just pay for the surprise guests, but I put my foot down on it and pulled my godmother aside and told her she would have to pay for the guests she brought, because we only have the budget for the people we originally invited. She told me to consider it, and that this is a celebration. No need to be cheap about it. I firmly told her no, and that she would either have to leave or pay for them. She replied, okay, fine. After the 3 hours buffet, when it is time for billing, I specifically told the waiter to only count the original number of guests we reserved, and the 3 extras will be on a separate payment. My godmother was furious that we didn't relent and pay for her co-workers. She started ranting about it, but my dad told me and my mom to go home and he will deal with my godmother. After that incident, my phone was blown with text from my godmother who told me I embarrassed her in front of her co-workers. Turns out her co-workers ended up paying for themselves, even if my dad offered to pay for them. He guessed that the co-workers of hers didn't want to make the situation become more awkward, and it isn't a big deal for them. But my godmother was furious, and told me that paying for her friend's dinner was nothing compared to the gifts she gave me since I was a little baby. Am I the a-hole for doing this? Not the a-hole. Who the heck brings strangers to a relative celebration? Your godmother was beyond tacky for thinking this was okay. Tacky times 10. I would never invite her to another gathering ever again. After working in hospitality and hosting events, this is my ultimate pet peeve. This woman invited 3 extra uninvited people and demanded that the host pay for them. In essence, she wanted a guest of honor to be out of pocket for 3 randos. She embarrassed herself, and I hope her co-workers told her off for putting everyone, them included, in a tacky tango. I don't argue. I speak my piece, then ghost. Her rants would have been insane because she would be blocked until she simmered down, apologizes, and proves she can manage to not act like an a-hole. Am I the a-hole for flipping out on my husband for canceling my job interview? New account because he deleted my main. So this might sound petty, but let me explain. In 2019, I could no longer work because of my physical disabilities. No company wanted to hire me for the past couple of years, and my husband said that it's better I just stay home and not worry about working. I agreed, and he's become the breadwinner. Then, it's like a switch that flipped, because chores were 50-50. But after I lost my job, they become 100% on me. Keep in mind my physical disabilities I developed. His excuse for not doing anything to help is that I stay at home 24/7. I told him that's not fair, especially since I suffered from physical discomfort. He made a deal with me and promised that everything will be 50-50 once I start working again. I told him I would find a job, and he laughed and said good luck. I remember this vividly because of the strange laugh that I never heard him laugh before. I started looking for a job again for months, but had no luck, till my friend's husband found me a potential job at a company that would have me work from home due to physical strains. I was so excited and felt like I'm capable again despite the struggle. They scheduled an interview with me, and when I told my husband, he looked red in the face, but said nothing. Then 2 days ago, I found out that my job interview got cancelled. I found out when my friend reached out to ask why I did that, but I said I had no idea. I checked my email and found nothing because I didn't send anything to the company. My husband came home and admitted cancelling the interview. I asked why, and he said that this job had lots of requirements and I didn't seem to fit to be accepted there. So to spare me the heartache of being rejected, he just cancelled the interview. I flipped out on him and told him he destroyed my one and only chance at landing a job. But he said he was just feeling concerned about my well-being. I told him he probably didn't want me to work because he didn't want to split house chores, and he seemed offended by that. He threw a fit about how unreasonable and selfish I was to even consider a job without speaking to him first. I told him I don't get involved in his work life. He called me horrible for accusing him of bad intention, then went out to meet his friends, probably to vent because one of them told me that my husband is looking out for me, but I was being cruel to him by yelling. He has been cold-shouldering me since then, deleted my social media accounts, claiming that they're bad for my mental health because of the negative effects some of those platforms have. Am I the a-hole for yelling at him? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. New account because he deleted my main. I just had to read this one line and knew this was not going to be you in the wrong. This man has extreme control issues. Run. He should be lifting you up and encouraging your growth and happiness, not beating you down when you try to do something that makes you happy. I hope you realize you deserve so much better. Same. I read a first line and said out loud, "Get out." OP, this man has red flags as far as the eye can see. Run. He probably thinks she can't because she's disabled. Depending on the resources available in their area, he might be right. Get out, get out, get out. Call your friends, your parents, your dog sitter, whoever can take you and leave right now. Get a divorce the moment you are out, and never go near him again. This is 12 different kinds of abusive and could escalate very easily. He wants you helpless and dependent on him, so he can mistreat you and it's only going to get worse. Run now. Not stay home, but that hardly matters. Not stay home. Dear OP, please get out of this relationship now. Your husband is showing you exactly who he is, an abuser. First, he cut you off from your family and friends by deleting your socials. Then he canceled a job interview that would have given you some financial security. What exactly are you getting out of this relationship? Time for you to get in touch quietly with your family and make a plan to get out before it starts escalating. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying my husband is a good father? When he was in his early 20s, my husband got a girl pregnant. They were casual dating in college. They had a lot of mutual friends. He didn't want to be a dad and told her as much, but she was adamant about keeping the baby. He was supportive through the pregnancy, but it was clear he didn't want to be involved. He wanted to renounce his rights, but ended up with an agreement where he still pays child support, but doesn't do visitation or has involvement in any parental decisions. The girl now is 12, and he hasn't met her nor plans to ever do. I met him 8 years ago. We've been married for almost 7. He told me about the whole thing having a bio child out there very early on. I am fine with it. It is sad that a child came to the world under those circumstances, but I don't think he was wrong for choosing not to be involved. We now have a 5-year-old son. My husband has always been wonderful to me. That's why I fell in love with him. He was great during the pregnancy and birth, but has been doting in our son and me ever since. I think he's a wonderful dad and husband. The problem, 2 of his friends married their college girlfriends, whom were/are friends with his bio daughter's mother. In now 3 occasions in conversations where I said my husband is a wonderful father, one of them said something snarky and mean like, yeah, to only one of his children. Over the weekend, we attended to one of them kids' birthday party. I was chatting to another mom about motherhood and said that it's easier when you have a good team player in your spouse. The homeowner mom chimed in to say, loudly, if only the mother of his other child had the same. Later, I confronted her in the kitchen, said I was very tired of her and other friend comments about my husband, that she didn't need to invite us to things or spend time with us if she didn't want to, but it was super disrespectful to be constantly insulting him as a father. She told me she initially likes me, but finds it distasteful and rude that I keep praising my husband as a good father, when I'm well aware that he isn't, that she will always make sure to correct me because it's not okay that he got away with what he did, and he now gets to play happy family with me and our son. The conversation went south from then on, and of course we left. The other mom friend texted me yesterday to tell me she completely backs up what the other said, and that I'm horrible for marrying and having a kid with a deadbeat, and on top of it to praise him as a good dad. I have no doubts of my feelings. My husband has been and is great with our son and me. I guess I never thought how my words could be insensitive towards his bio daughter and her mother, whom I've never met. But am I the a-hole for occasionally saying my husband is a good father when talking to people? Should I stop? Not stay home, and I really don't get all the comments saying otherwise. He wasn't ready to be a father then. It made that very clear to the ex. Still supported her through the pregnancy. Still pays child support. And has stuck to their agreement, as has the ex. What? Is he just supposed to show up at random? Toss that little girl's life into disarray just so he's not a deadbeat? Which he doesn't seem to be at all. Your other comments even make it clear that he recognized it would be unethical to give away parental rights, which it wouldn't have been. I mean, is there something I'm missing here? He can't be a good or a bad father to that little girl because he is not her father in anything more than blood. He is a father to your son and a good one, in many ways beyond that. So no, you're not the a-hole for saying that he is what he is. He is not her father in anything more than blood. This is what I was trying to say. Thank you. Not the a-hole. This may get me downvoted, but all the people saying you're the a-hole. Do you remember the post about the guy calling his ex a deadbeat because she didn't want anything to do with the child he talked her into giving him? She paid child support, more than needed, and requested to have nothing to do with them. Everyone jumped down the guy's throat, rightly so, for calling her a deadbeat, and stated she was within her rights to do that. Why is it different if it's a man? He didn't want a child then. He told her and she still had a child. He pays child support just like the woman did. Is it because he decided to have a child when he got older and wiser? Or is it simply because he's a man? I'm kind of torn between everyone sucks here and you're the a-hole. You're right that they probably just shouldn't hang out with you and your husband. But if your husband is friends with their spouses, they're a little bit stuck. And they should let sleeping dogs lie. And yet, why do you talk about what a great father your husband is that often? That has now come up in conversations 3+ times. It sounds like you're defensive and constantly reiterating that he's a great father, in front of these women who are good friends with the woman he left to parent alone. So I honestly don't blame them for wanting you to shut it. So it comes down to why this has come up so often. If they're constantly bringing up, unprompted, that your husband sucks as a dad, they should stop. But you should also stop constantly bringing up, unprompted, that he's a great dad. Their friend has been a single parent for years because he only values one of his children. You've decided that's okay with you, but it doesn't have to be okay with them. It doesn't happen often. 3 times in about 5 years. Before 2020, we used to be around these people, his group of friends, relatively often. So I really don't think it was often. Plus, I don't know how to explain it. I don't mind YTAs, but it seems I cannot paint a picture correctly. It's not that I sit there and randomly go, "Did I tell you my husband is a good father, everyone?" It's that maybe on occasion people were talking about parenting, or about being pregnant and how their husbands were with them, or about being in labor and what their partner did that helped them. And I would be part of that conversation and share something positive about my own. Like the first time one of them was rude about it. Another friend of theirs said her partner was so good with bedtime that her kids fell asleep so easily with him while they stay up for hours when it's her turn. And I said something about my husband's bedtime ritual with our son and how great he was with him. Then one of them said, "Yeah, great to one of his children at least." Also, I don't know if they're still friends with the bio mom. Never ask. I know they were friends in college. Bio mom lives in a different state as far as I'm aware. Next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my husband he is expecting too much from our son over the amount of eggs he eats?" My 38 female husband, 47 male, is a very traditional man. He also used to be a star football player for his team when he was younger. He is a very built man and I of course love him the way he is. We also have a 15-year-old lovely son, who took after me a little more than his dad. By that, he isn't particularly brawny and doesn't have an eye for sports. So about a year ago, my son decided to pick up exercising, which of course I was glad for. We started jogging together and he started to eat a little healthier. However, recently my husband has been, in my opinion, a little harsh on our son. He expects him to do reps and eat a lot more protein, but I think he's forcing him too much. Our son started to talk less with his friends and pushing himself more and more. Last Sunday, I made all of us breakfast. I made 2 eggs for both my husband and son, but my husband insisted he had more, so I did 2 more eggs. He ate them, although barely, and my husband insisted I do more despite my son not wanting to this time. I told him that he needs to stop, and he was expecting too much from our son. He said that it was nonsense, and that as a kid he expects him to be like how he was when he was younger. I called him ridiculous, and he told me that as the father of our kid he should guide him, and that I was interfering. We haven't really talked much since, and I'm afraid I might be the a-hole because I came in between their relationship. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Is your husband Gaston from Beauty and the Beast? Cause he sounds like Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. In all seriousness, your husband is basically a cartoon villain. Please let your son live his own life. Our children aren't supposed to be carbon copies of us. Let him be his own person, and stop his dad from giving him further food trauma. Forcing someone to eat more than they can is abuse. I feel bad for your son. You would be the a-hole if you don't try to protect your son from his father's toxicity. Not the a-hole. What your husband is doing is completely ignoring what your son wants and damaging his relationship with him in the process. Pushing a child, especially at that age, to be something they're not will ruin all motivation they have and give them the feeling of never being good enough. If your husband doesn't calm down, he's only going to get resentment. The kid is lucky that he has a parent that does stick up for him. Just do make sure to ask your son for his opinion and give him a voice. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for turning around and walking out of the restaurant after seeing my boyfriend's 2-year-old son there? So, I met this guy, Will, 5 months ago. He's really sweet and loving, but he has a 2-year-old kid with his baby mama. The problem I have is that whenever we plan on going out for a date, Will's baby mama would call and demand he take their son to stay with him. They never married, so there's no legal custody arrangements in place. Every time we plan to go out, she'd call and demand that Will come pick their son up to stay with him for hours, resulting in our plans being cancelled. I told him his baby mama has been doing this deliberately. He said he noticed too, but cannot tell her no because if he refuses to take their son, she'd not allow him to see him for a whole month as a punishment. I told Will he has to put an end to this because it's affecting how our relationship is progressing, and he said he'll try. Last week, he invited me out for dinner at a restaurant. I was excited because he told me he was already at the restaurant, so I thought his baby mama doesn't know, so she won't wreck our plans. I got dressed nicely and did my hair and just took care of myself real good, looking forward for some quality time together. However, when I arrived to the restaurant, I saw Will and his son there. I felt rage and disappointment washing over me. Will saw me and waved me to come closer, but I turned around and walked out. He followed me outside trying to explain, but I decided to go home and the date was obviously cancelled. Later, he texted explaining that his baby mama did it again. He said he didn't know how she figured out we were going out and demanded he take their son for the night. He said he didn't want to be punished, but neither wanted to cancel our date, so he brought his son to the restaurant, and I was wrong to turn around and walk out. I told him I was sick of this woman dictating our life and being intentionally hurtful. But he said I ruined our night after we tried to compromise and he didn't appreciate that. Maybe I did, but I just wanted a quiet dinner for us both. And I'm disappointed that he once again let his baby mama bully him into doing what she wanted. But am I the a-hole? Info. This has been going on for a while. I have no idea how she keeps figuring out when/where we plan on going. Will says that it must be coincidental, but at this rate, I really doubt it. I've met up with her several times and she seemed quite hostile towards me for no reason. She doesn't know me that well, but made several assumptions about the type of woman I am. Our ages are ranging between 25 to 30. Info, how does she know his plans? He's either telling her and lying to you, or she has access to his messages or some app he uses. I don't know. Will says it's probably by accident, but that explanation has gotten old when his baby mama kept doing this for a while. It's honestly concerning. Some people here said she might have been tracking Will's activities, which is concerning. However, he told me that she constantly demands to be kept posted about his whereabouts in case of any emergencies with her son, but then said he no longer tells her. You are both too young to get tied down to this sort of dysfunctional situation, and too old to be with someone who doesn't take the responsibility seriously enough to pursue custody agreements when it's clearly necessary. Not the a-hole. Never choose a weak person to build a life with. You should have put a custody plan in place long ago. Right. I'm not sure what being married has to do with a custody agreement. All parents who are separated from the other parent should have a legally enforceable custody agreement.
Am I the a-hole for making my parents choose between my sister going to jail or replacing my car with their vacation money? Plus many updates. I, female 17, live with my parents. I have an older sister at 29 that they had when they were super young. Like, I think my mom was 19 and my dad was 18. They did not do a great job with her, and she has a lot of problems. She is chronically unemployed and she is a thief. She has 2 kids that are okay. They live with us as well because her boyfriend didn't want them around. I like the kids, but they're spoiled little brats my parents dote on to make up for being crappy parents to their mom. My parents won't let me put a lock on my door because it is their house and they don't want that. No problem. I talk to the kids and explain about what would happen if they came into my room without permission. So we have an understanding. Well, my sister broke up with her boyfriend and she needed a place to stay. I begged my parents not to let her stay with us. They declined. So I begged again for a lock for my door. No dice. I have to go to school, so I can't guard my stuff at all times. When I came home on Friday, I found my car absolutely trashed and the side of it destroyed. My sister had gone into my room, found my spare key and taken my car, then lost control on the ice after a day of eating crap and tossing fast food wrappers everywhere and sideswiped a tree. When I saw my car, I was livid. I told my parents that I expect her to pay to fix it. They said she didn't have any money. So I said that I would call my grandparents as they helped me get the car and insurance. After talking with my grandfather, I came back to talk to my parents. I said that the insurance would cover fixing or replacing my car depending on the damage, but that I would have to file a police report and that my sister would probably be charged for stealing my car. They begged me to tell insurance that she had permission. I said nope. So rather than go through insurance, they are replacing my car, but they're using money that they had set aside to take me and my nieces to Orlando next summer for my graduation. It's fine. I can do without seeing Disney World again. But my parents, sister, and nieces are upset with me and saying that I'm an a-hole for denying my nieces the opportunity to go on a vacation that they never had. I just asked them if a lock for my door would have been cheaper. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the mini update. Not the a-hole. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I just asked them if a lock for my door would have been cheaper. Legend. Heck yeah. I hope you learned what not to do by watching her older sister. My other favorite line is, my sister, parents, nieces are all mad at me. Like, why would a sister have the nerve to be mad? She stole the car, and it's her own fault her kids will be disappointed. Opie's parents suck too for enabling this absurdity. Not a-hole, Opie. The children are upset that they did not travel. The parents are upset that they were forced to take responsibility for their Golden Girls' actions. The sister is upset because she's a narcissist, and these types of people will always blame someone else. She will never accept the blame. Not the a-hole, and you still need a lock. I have a security cam, and I have evidence. It was better than a lock in this case. Add a lock and keep the cam. As a thief, your a-hole sister could still pick the lock and take anything again. Not the a-hole, and your parents are still bad parents to her and to her kids. Letting kids get away with everything and not having to face the consequences is, in my opinion, abusive, because then they have no idea how to function in the real world. If your parents had actually learned anything about parenting, they'd make your sister deal with this, or would at least force her to get a job to repay them. If they did that, then the kids wouldn't miss out on Disney. Every single aspect of this has been your parents' fault, and they're still failing. Came here to say this. She's 29 and living with her parents while they raise her kids. Seems like a no-brainer that she should be working, and all money going to repay for car repairs until it's paid back. Mini update. Hey, I just got home from school. There was a deadbolt on my bedroom door, and my mom gave me a key. She says that she is keeping the other one for emergency. I agreed, as long as it was only for emergencies. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend to help pay his biological daughter's tuition? This all started 17 years ago when my friend and his girlfriend, now married, gave birth to my daughter Jasmine. They had a baby they didn't want and protected fun and no abortion and gave it to me. I was friends with this guy for a couple of years, and my wife was infertile and was devastated we couldn't have kids. So, they gave us the baby and life was good until the pandemic hit. The pandemic hit hard for us and my wife lost her job. Thankfully, I got a better job and make money now. enough to support needs and barely scrape by for my daughter's tuition. Now, on the other hand, my friend and his wife are living on cruise ships. He makes a lot of money, so much that he basically lives on cruises and owns a nice condo in Honolulu. They wanted to visit my daughter, and during dinner, fancy restaurant paid by them, offered to pay 20% of my daughter's tuition. My daughter asked why not more, and they told her that she wasn't their responsibility as they gave her to me and my wife. Dinner was very awkward after that, and outside I called my friend in a hall for not paying my daughter's tuition. I said he makes very good money, and he can afford to pay the tuition. He told me off and left and went back to his fancy condo, might I add. Meanwhile, my daughter was in her room crying, claiming she hates her father. So much so that she blocked all contact with her biological parents and claimed she hates them and never wants to speak to them again. I don't know how I will cover the 50 grand. It's basically half my salary over 2 years. So am I the a-hole? Info. You say gave you their daughter. Was there not a legal adoption? What do the adoption papers say about what they owe you? Was support addressed at all? You seem to simultaneously want this to be a foster child when it benefits you and an adoption when that does. And I'm completely unclear on which is true. If you adopted her, they are not her parents anymore. They are people offering you a gift, one you seem incapable of taking without sabotaging it. Also, why are you waiting till she's 17 to pay for school? You could have saved with pennies on the dollar if you'd started a college fund 17 years ago. And now you're trying to figure out how to scramble. Did you just figure and tell your daughter to expect that rich bio dad would save the day? Because it sure sounds that way. Your daughter had been primed to ask for the full amount, and that audacity doesn't come from nowhere. She wanted to go to some college with her friends. She told us, we applied, she got in, and now we have to pay. And we didn't start a college fund because we thought the parents would pay for it. They told us no, that we had to start it instead, and my wife yelled at them. You and your wife are the parents, you idiot. You're the a-hole. You wanted their child, which means she is your responsibility. 20% was very generous. Good job for being entitled and raising an entitled daughter. The way my eyes bugged at the why not more? I mean, can these people get more entitled? And now you get 0%. Of course, you're the a-hole.
This is important from OP's comments.
OP also neglected to mention the following. They didn't just offer to pay 20%. They offered to pay 20% of the tuition and to pay off her dorm on campus or an apartment off campus. They also wanted to give her $5,000 to spend on food, which I think they need to send more. Oh, and apparently, they also paid for 75% of his daughter's car. They have been incredibly generous, despite having no financial obligation to him, and he still demanded more. These people gave you the gift of parenthood when you were struggling with infertility and not sure if you would ever have a child. They literally gave you their child and trusted you to be a good parent to her rather than giving her up for adoption elsewhere. And now you're acting like they're a-holes for not bankrolling you as a parent? Either your child is yours or she isn't. If you love her and you consider her to be your daughter, then it is not any other adult's responsibility to financially provide for her education, including the adults whose egg and sperm created her. And that's the grossest part of all of this, that you don't even see that you are literally negating your own parental connection to your daughter for a money grab. You're saying that she's your daughter, except when you want money from your well-off friend and then she's his? It's beyond horrifying. Do what every other parent who does not have a wealthy friend does to manage their child's education. You should have been saving money or take out student loans or apply for scholarships. That man is not our parent. If he were, you wouldn't be. You're the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for walking out of a babysitting gig after I found out that a kid was diabetic? I, 18 female, babysit for several families in my neighborhood. One of the families that I babysit for recommended me to this woman who is new to the neighborhood. She contacted me on Wednesday asking if I could babysit her 2 kids on Friday evening through Saturday afternoon. Apparently it was her friend's birthday, and they were spending a night in the mountains to celebrate. She asked me to show up a little bit early so that she could go over things with me. Nothing abnormal, especially since I've never met them before. I show up and she starts going over the usual stuff, and then she starts talking about insulin and blood sugars. Apparently, one of the kids, 5-year-old, has type 1 diabetes, and she didn't think that it would be important to let me know beforehand. I have zero experience caring for diabetic children. So I told her that I wasn't comfortable. And she just said, "Oh, don't worry, it's easy," and then tried to show me how to give an insulin injection. I also told her that I am squeamish around needles, and she kind of laughed it off and continued trying to teach me. I finally had to cut her off and basically told her that unfortunately, I wasn't comfortable caring for a diabetic child on such short notice, especially since she'll be hours away, and probably drunk, let's be honest. She started freaking out and begging me to stay, as she didn't want to miss her trip. It seemed like she was about to cry as I was leaving, which made me feel bad. I texted her when I got home and basically said that in the future I would be willing to try, but I'd like to have some kind of trial run, and we could build up to overnight once I actually knew what I was doing. She read my text but didn't respond. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Since you are neither qualified nor comfortable with performing such a task, you made the right choice. Not the a-hole. As a teacher, my wife has 2 kids in her class with diabetes, and she and other staff had to have special trainings, not for just administering insulin, but also to understand blood sugar levels, the effects of food, etc. This is not the kind of stuff you learn in a 5-minute chat before someone walks out the door and entrusts their kid to you. Both my parents had to work with my endo nurse to learn how to give injections, and they still don't like doing it. I would never ask someone I barely know to understand a care that a type 1 needs. Even nurses at some schools I've gone to had to get retrained when I started there, because I was their first type 1 in years and was using equipment that they had never used. Even when I was diagnosed, I was in the hospital for type 1 training for 3 days to learn what I needed to do to not die. Asking someone to learn all that in 5 minutes seems impossible to me. My mother is a nurse, and my dad was still in hospital for 2 days to be trained when he started on injections. Type 1 diabetic here. Totally not the a-hole. Especially because you have zero experience administering insulin or dealing with lows. Minor mistakes on dosage can have serious negative consequences. Same with waiting too long to take insulin. That mom should know better. Good for you for walking away from that risky situation. T1 here. Can you imagine if the kid has low blood sugar in the night? OP might not have even woken up to catch it. And given the kid is getting injections and not on a pump, there's probably no CGM. Seriously, T1 also and horrified at this mother's thoughtlessness. If it was a teenager who could mostly handle their own care, maybe it would be okay to give a 5-minute rundown. But a 5-year-old? Not the a-hole. She blindsided you and was hoping for the best. Even if the kid just needed to take a pill at bedtime, that sort of thing should have been disclosed when you took the gig. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents I won't go home for Christmas unless they get me a gift? My 19 male sister Bree 17 is a brat. My parents spoil her rotten. And if she doesn't immediately get her way, she will throw a tantrum, and my parents will always give in to whatever she asks for. I wouldn't say she got in the way of me or our brother, 23, getting anything, but it was always really obvious who got more. My parents emailed me asking if I would be okay with doing a low-stress Christmas this year, as in nobody would get gifts for anybody else. We would just spend time together. I was fine with this, since I don't want anything anyway and it would make things less stressful like they said. So I called them to let them know, and they immediately told me what to get Bree. I was confused and said, I thought we weren't doing gifts this year. My mom said, yeah, but Bree's different. You know how she'll get if she doesn't get something. Besides, she's still a baby. This made me mad. Not because I wanted gifts, but because it felt like Bree was getting to be the favorite again. I hung up and looked on the family Amazon account, and they have already gotten her a brand new tablet, a bunch of accessories for it, a name brand giant makeup case, and loads of smaller things. I called them back and told them that I won't come home for Christmas unless I get a gift. It doesn't have to even be a fraction of what they spent on Bree. It could be literally the smallest thing. I just want one gift. They told me I'm being childish and they thought they raised me better. I told them that was the deal and hung up. I told my housemates that I might be staying here over the break, and when I explained why, they said I'm being immature and that my parents don't owe me anything because I'm an adult now. I told them the gift is the point, is that Bree is obviously being treated differently from me, but they said it's because she still lives with them and is still a kid, and that I should grow up and stop being entitled. I still think I'm justified, but now I wonder if I'm being an a-hole? Not the a-hole. The rules were no one gets a present, but now the golden child has to have a bunch of gifts, including gifts from everyone so she doesn't get upset. Scratch that. For your own mental health and well-being, it's time to consider low to no contact with them. Don't keep setting yourself up to get hurt because your parents obviously favor your sister. Your parents obviously favor your sister. You're a whole 19. This "you're an adult" argument is ridiculous. She always been favored even before you were 19. Your parents have made it clear they favor one child, and that child exploits it to the fullest extent. There are people out there who may not be blood related to you, but will be better family than these people. Find them. Go live your life. Don't keep running back to people who make you feel less than because family. They're not bad people. They love me and I love them. They went to my cross-country games and all that. They weren't neglectful. They just have this huge blind spot when it comes to my sister, and I don't want that one thing to keep making me feel bad. I didn't say there were bad people. Their actions make you feel bad and less than your sister. I'm sure they love you, but she's the golden child hands down. That's always going to be the case, unfortunately. You can continue to try to discuss it with them, but you know how that's going to go. If you can afford it, I would suggest getting therapy to help you out here. A therapist would be able to help you come up with boundaries and better ways to handle this than me or anyone else here. Not a-hole. Buy your sister a book on recovering from golden child syndrome and have it delivered to the house during Christmas dinner. Your first Christmas on your own is hard, but lean into it. Fuzzy PJs all day, Die Hard, candy for breakfast and bacon for dinner were how I coped when I was your age. And now my kid and I do those things together. Man, that sounds perfect. I suddenly feel a lot less bad. Lol. It really is wonderful. Do all the things you'd get grief for doing on Christmas because they make you happy. I strongly suggest a whimsical onesie, and I hope you have a really merry, comfy slacker Christmas.
Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to visit my mother in palliative care? Original story. My family is formed of cougars and sugar daddies, and I hate all of them. Except my grandpa, my mom's dad, who does not give a damn about anyone. He is the reason I am alive and well, and thriving. I'm currently 21, but this story goes on to the very back when I was 5, when my mom got married to a guy named Vladimir. Vlad, if you find this, then screw you. He is the most selfish person I've ever seen. After she and him got married, my mother started to leave me to my grandpa frequently. At first, it was for date nights. Then it has become after school. And then it became a full-time arrangement because that was what his little Vladdy wanted. Vlad is a sugar babe, by the way. My mom was 34. Vlad was 23 when they were married. And my mom's family is really rich. All of my mother's family, except Grandpa, adored him, and they hated my grandpa for pointing out the fact that my mom was neglecting me. When I was 9, my custody was granted to my grandpa. It was a painful process, and as a result, we have become by our own. Mom and Vladdy had their own lives after it, and I only saw them in family vacations. Last week, there was a call from Vladimir, saying that my mom has a terminal colon cancer, and she's currently in a palliative care unit. He said she wants to see you one last time before she leaves this world. They live in a city that is 12 hours by car. I'm not gonna take a plane in the circumstances of the world, so just said I don't have time for you, and hung up the phone. And then our extended family started to call us. I wouldn't bother with their opinions, but my closest friends who know all of this said I might have been very cruel, and that she'd served a chance for closure, so I came here. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not a-hole. Sounds like there was a decade where she had the ability to make amends and chose not to. She lived her life that way. She can die that way. Your lifestyle determines your death style. Not a-hole. You don't owe her anything. She didn't act as a parent to you. Your grandpa did. Whether you want to give her closure or not, that's up to you. But your mom isn't doing this for you. She's doing it for herself. Yep, any closure is for Opie, not the mom. She lost her chance at it with persistent neglect. Not Dayhall. You might have been cruel, but so what? She was cruel to you. She can reap what she sowed. Would be excessively kind to visit? Yes. But you don't owe her anything. Only visit her if it will help you. If you want / need / are interested in that closure, then go for it. Otherwise, you live your best life. And please know her behaviors were always about who she is, not about who you are. You deserved better. Not Dayhall. She's your mother through biology, but she stopped being your parents when she let your grandpa raise you. You owe her nothing. She wants you to visit so she can feel better about how badly she treated you. Do not give that to her. And now for the update. So, after all of your opinions and suggestions, I decided to give a Zoom call and it was enlightening. I forgave someone, but it wasn't my mom. It was Vladimir. I will never ever forgive my mom, but we had some kind of closure that I will tell after what happened with Vladimir. When my custody case was happening, there were photos and proof materials that I didn't know where they came from. Turns out it was all Vladimir's stuff and help. He said he was worried about my mom and me being together, so he helped Grandpa discreetly, and my custody was transferred to my grandpa. All of the presents that I got in my birthday that was told from my mother was actually Vladimir. He also helped my grandpa on business and about his will. I feel so sorry for alienating him so much, but he said he wanted me to stay away from my mom, so he alienated himself too from the equation. We are planning to come together after the lockdown is over in my area. I also learned why he got married to my mom, and honestly, I do not blame him after I heard what my mom offered to him to be with her. He was desperate. And besides me, my mom was a good person when they were together and cared for him really well. My mom, though, she said she did not regret how she acted about me, and she said she knew she was wrong, but did not care. It was kind of shocking, but not surprising. She admitted that she should have left me to her dad when I was way younger and moved on with her life. And she wished me a happy and joyful life, and she said she wasn't asking for any forgiveness because she did not have any what-ifs about the process, and her only mistake was resisting in the custody case. It was a closure, not a good one, but it was. Our relatives were delighted when we talked, but me and Vladimir decided to cut contact with them after my mother's death like my grandfather. They can have their lives to themselves. My mom is still in palliative care, and the doctor responsible for her said to be prepared because it could happen at any moment. I decided I will attend her funeral, because after all, at the end, she admitted her mistakes, and even though she is a bad parent, she was honest and she earned my respect. So I am not gonna spare a last goodbye from her. That was all, and thank you for suggesting me a last talk even though I am not Dayhall. Not Dayhall? Wow, thanks for the update. It took an unexpected turn. I am glad you found the answers you seek for. In the end, it seems your mom just never intended to be a mom, and your grandfather was the right choice. I wish you and your grandfather a happy long life. Wow, Vlad wasn't the bloodsucker I thought he was. Desperation and money can make people act in ways that run counter to their individual morals. Seems like he wanted to do right, but in a way that didn't jeopardize himself. Dude was stuck. I'm glad things worked as well as could be expected, and that you had a silent helper in your side. All the best to you. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom I never intended to come back to the US after visiting my dad? My name is Daisy, and I am 19 female. My dad is Australian and my mom is American. I have dual citizenship. I have never really liked living with my mom. I have talked to my dad about moving to Australia for years. He told me that when I am 18, I could move in at any time and he would help me get everything worked out. And he kept his word. In 2019, I shipped a lot of my belongings, packed bags, took my needed paperwork, and left for the summer and never came back. I told my mom I was visiting longer and made excuses, but I never intended to go back. With everything that happened in December 2019, I told my mom I could not leave. I guess I didn't have the guts to explain almost 7 years of BS. Dad left when I was 12. She remarried 3 months later, and suddenly I had a stepbrother that she seemed to favor more. I just felt like I was a guest in their home. I finally had a talk with my mom, and she called me an a-hole for it. I explained to her that I didn't intend to go back. I had everything I wanted with me in Australia. She said, "What about paperwork?" I explained I took everything when I turned 18 and graduated high school. I said that I didn't intend to go to college when this was over, and I had applied to uni here in Australia. I was happy. Dad said he would support me for a few years, and I was not going to be keeping my US citizenship. She started crying and asked if I hated her. I asked her why she never showed me I was more important than her new marriage, that while she was my mom, I didn't really know how to forgive her for feeling alienated. I said I didn't want to talk for a while and hung up. Now I feel like an a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. For everyone saying you're the a-hole or everyone sucks here, they are wrong. Your mother chose to get married 3 months after divorcing your dad. That's not sane. She then basically picks her new husband and stepson over her own daughter. She chose to be entirely selfish and put her needs over being a good mom. She sounds like someone with narcissistic tendencies. I don't blame you for moving away. Also, you're an adult and can choose where you want to live. Your dad seems a lot more supportive. You didn't owe your mom any conversation because she clearly wouldn't have listened and would have sabotaged you leaving. To all the other posters, do you not see the abuse her mother put her through? Like, it was bad enough she felt she needed to escape. I know what it's like, and it's doubtful that some of these posters do. You owe your mother nothing at all. Thank you for understanding. It was hard to explain to people I knew, unless they had seen/been to my house. Most of the time, people thought my mom must be great because she didn't care where I went. But it was really lonely, and I felt like no one cared, outside of my dad and friend group. Not an a-hole. It sounds like you were in a difficult position and you felt really hurt by your mom. Ideally, you would have told her sooner, once you were over here in Australia. But I think you did your best given your age and how you were feeling. It's pretty telling that she didn't know how upset you were and didn't even notice that you shipped all your important stuff over here. Welcome to Australia, mate. Also pretty telling, she didn't say, "I'm so sorry for not noticing," but ask, "Do you hate me?" Classic manipulative/narcissistic tactic. Not an a-hole. Your mom didn't notice you'd moved all your stuff out of your room. Didn't notice your important papers were gone. Didn't seem to give a crap you'd scrubbed your existence from the house. You did the right thing for you. Good luck with your new life in Australia. She also asked about the paperwork right away. That implies that she would have tried to stop Opie from going. She clearly made the right decision. And as for her mother, actions have consequences. Too little too late. The last story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for wanting my parents to meet our newborn before my wife's mother?" I, male 27, just had an argument about this with my female 24 wife. And 2 weeks ago, we had our first child, and she's a healthy baby girl. Some background. She is the first grandchild on both sides. I come from a large family with 5 siblings, and my wife grew up as an only child in a single-parent household. Now, my wife is very close to her mother, which is understandable, and me and mother-in-law have a great relationship as well. Our original plan was for mother-in-law to move in with us during the later stages of the pregnancy because my wife wanted her there for support, and I completely understood and had no issues with that. Now the issue is that mother-in-law lives abroad, and as you all know, COVID happened, and so mother-in-law's country went into lockdown and pretty much put a stop to all international travel. So our original plan didn't happen. This made my wife very sad. She had been looking forward to having her mother close. Again, completely understandable. Pregnancy is scary and no joke. My parents and 3 of my siblings, however, live 2 houses down the road. And during the pandemic, we have been keeping them in our bubble. We have been having dinners and hangouts regularly. Now, here is our issue. We have been home for 1.5 weeks. We have not seen anyone, and again, I have not pushed us to see anyone. But I did ask my wife when she reckoned she was ready for my parents and siblings to meet their new niece and grandchild. She replied a bit annoyed that she wanted her mother to be the first one besides me to meet and hold her in real life, and that this was very important to her. Under normal circumstances, I would not object, but we don't know when they will be opening up for international travel. And for mother-in-law to be vaccinated and to fly over the Atlantic could potentially take months. I said it was really unfair to let my family wait for such a long time to meet their first grandchild, especially when they live so close. This did not sit well with her, and my wife and I had an argument. She said that since she gave birth and carried a pregnancy, she had a final say. Normally I would agree, but we don't even know when mother-in-law can come over, and I really want my parents to meet our daughter as well. They are eager. They have not pushed or asked in any way, but I can tell from talking to my mother that she can barely contain herself. My wife called me a massive a-hole, and that I refused to listen to her and could not possibly understand what women go through. I was just baffled and sad, and I feel I need outside perspective on this. Would I be an a-hole if I took our daughter to see my parents? Would I be an a-hole if I took our daughter to see my parents? Without your wife's permission? Absolutely, you're the a-hole. That would be a huge betrayal. Obviously, your child is likely to meet your parents before hers, but now is not the time to push this. You shouldn't be starting arguments and complaining about what's really unfair when your wife is only 10 days postpartum, coping with her first newborn baby, and missing her mother. You need to back off and be kind. I was also thinking, maybe wait for a bit longer than 1.5 weeks out of the hospital before going into this topic that is clearly very important to her. I put everyone sucks here because of her comments on having the final say because she gave birth. Agreed. I don't get the amount of not a day-hole this post is getting. His wife gave birth less than a fortnight ago. She's probably dealing with a lot. Physically because of the birth and taking care of a newborn, but also mentally for the same reasons and also not having her mother, the one person, aside from Opie, she truly wanted present, near her during this whole thing. Opie, your parents will definitely meet your kid soon, but your wife needs kindness and support, not pressure over what other people want. If you take your kid without her permission, don't expect your wife to forgive you at all. That kind of betrayal breaks relationships. Put yourself in her place. Imagine being pregnant for the first time, wanting your mother there and not having her. Even worse, you don't even know when you'll see her, when she'll see your kid. You would probably feel awful and not be particularly rational. You would be a mess, and you would need time to process everything. What matters right now is that your wife and kid recover, particularly your wife, and that she has time to process everything. Like I said, your own desires and those of your family aren't more relevant than her mental well-being. It's been 10 days. Give her a break. In countries like mine, people don't get to see newborns until they are at least a month old for the sake of their immune system, even without a pandemic. Not the a-hole for feeling that way, but you would be the a-hole if you took your daughter to your parents behind your wife's back. Maybe try to include your mother-in-law in your life more. Video chats and maybe send her a lock of the baby's hair. That way, you can show your wife that your mother-in-law is important to you and to your baby. After that, you can revisit the meeting your family thing. Your wife is maybe being a little unreasonable, but actively doing something to upset her would be an a-hole move. She's still your wife. Best of luck to you. I think this is a lovely line of thought. Find some ways for mother-in-law to be included in special moments, even though it's just not realistic for her to be there in person right now. Everyone sucks here. Without the safety of the child issue at stake, she is an a-hole for disallowing family to see the baby for an open-ended period. Days for a mother to be first? Fine. Weeks? Possibly still okay. Months? Possibly forever? A-hole behavior. But you would be an a-hole for taking your daughter away without her consent. You may think your reasons are better, but at best you are asking to do the same thing she is doing. Make a large, irrevocable decision for her and without her say. Just as she doesn't get unilateral final say, you do not either. Work it out together, or expect that the loser in this situation, whether it is you or your wife, to carry possibly relationship-ending resentment ever after. Not a-hole. She can't hold your kid hostage from family for months hoping travel will be allowed. Also, it's your kid too. But there could be something deeper than just that. Does she think your family isn't being safe?